Okay, so for this project, what we're going to be doing is designing the city flag of Chicago. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to jump right into Gravit so that you can take a look at what that looks like. All right, so this is our end result. So I wanted to give you a sense of what we're going to be designing. And one thing I want to show you is that when you have nothing selected in Gravit, you can see in the properties inspector over here, I have the page settings, and I'm going to want to clip content. So that means things can exist outside of the artboard. By default, the page is going to clip it so that you can see if it's off of the artboard, it's not going to show sort of the typical default behavior of Pixlr and or Photoshop. And so, but I'm going to show you that right here. I've created some color swatches that we're going to be using a little bit later. Now, this is our end result. So we're going to go through the entire process of setting this up. And we're not going to, for today, worry too much about exact replication of dimensions and positioning. We just want to sort of get the hang of manipulating objects like rectangles and stars and other vector objects. So we're going to go to File, New. If you're just logging in for the first time, you'll sort of be presented with this page anyway. We're going to change our units to inches. And then we're going to make this 1.5 inches wide by 1 inch tall. And the reason for this is that a flag, which is typically seen from, say, like 100 feet away, is going to have sort of like the same resolution as a 1.5 inch by 1 inch rectangle at sort of a normal distance that you would hold a piece of paper away, or the normal distance that you would be from your screen. So we're going to click Create, and we really don't want to have details that are finer than this, because if you have anything too detailed, you won't see it, and it'll be a bad flag, as we learned from the Roman Mars video. So if I go back to the Chicago flag document right here, you can see if I press Command or Control 0, might be Option 0. You have to play around with that a little bit if you're on a Chromebook or a PC. You can see I can still make out that this is the Chicago flag, and I'll clip that extra stuff right here. So back into here, we are going to zoom in to our untitled project, and we can do that by using the scroll wheel and then holding the command button on a Mac, or Control or Alt on a PC. And so we're going to start off by creating a rectangle. And so right here in my shapes panel right here, I'm going to draw a rectangle, and then this blue stripe that we're going to be creating, by default it's set to gray. We're going to want to make sure that our borders, if I click this plus right here, we don't want any borders. So we actually want this to be set to 0. And then right here, we're going to set our fill color to a very specific shade of blue. Now this one's actually pretty close, but you can see it's a little bit too I don't know, vibrant, if you will. So the hexadecimal code, the 6 characters, are going to be B3DDF2. When I press enter, you'll see that that is the specific shade of blue for the Chicago flag. So I'm going to make one of these, and I'm going to position it thusly, and I'm going to hold the Option key, and I'm going to click and drag. Or what I could do is I could if I undo that, I could select this, and then I could Command or Control C, depending on your system, and then Command V to paste. And so you can see I've got 2 of them, and that's what we want. So we're pretty close to having our Chicago flag done. I'm going to sort of position these like so. If I select 2 objects right here, I can do, actually we'll come back to this in a second. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our shape tool, and we're going to make a star. Now I'm going to hold shift as I drag this, and that's going to lock these into increments that aren't going to be like awkwardly positioned, and so I can get the feet of the star to be equal right here. They're both sort of on this same area right here. Now the Chicago stars are actually 6-sided, not 5-sided. So I'm going to change the number of points in the properties appearance panel over here to 6. Press enter. You'll notice that now all of a sudden the feet aren't down, and actually we want a single point to be down. So I'm actually going to change the angle to -96. That ends up being the correct angle. And then I also want to, I have this written down in my notes over here, I want to change the size right here, not 50%, but 40%. It's going to make the star more acute. And then I'm going to just hold the shift key and I'm going to resize this so that it fits in the middle here. And the Chicago flag has 4 stars. But first we have to get the right fill color. So I'm going to click right here. And this is actually FF0000, which is sort of like the shade of red in the top right corner right there. All right, so let's now duplicate these. Duplicate this 3 more times. We could do the Command C, Command V trick, or we could click drag while holding Option. And what I want to do is I want to get these approximately correct. Then I want to show you that we can use distribution techniques. So if I select just the stars by clicking and dragging through all of them, you can see my bounding box shows that they're not exactly lined up. Up in the top right over here, I can align these to the middle of the selection. So they all sort of line up according to themselves. And then I can do a horizontal distribution. So distribute horizontally. That will make all of them equally far away from each other. Now, here's a trick. I can right click and I can group the selection. And then if I click this again, I'm going to align this to the center relative to the artboard. I'm going to align it to the center horizontally and vertically over here. Now, these are like 3 objects because this is one group and then a second rectangle, a third rectangle. If I select all of these, I can do one more vertical distribution like so. So now the distance between here and here is exactly the same as here and here. And I'm going to, I think these are a little bit thick. I'm doing this from memory right here. So that I like, and that I like, and I want these to be exactly the same, so I'm going to duplicate this, otherwise it won't be exactly the same. Alright, so now I'll do one more vertical distribution, and then I'm going to group all of these one final time, and then I'm going to center this on the artboard itself. Now it's not perfect, this one is a little bit more perfect. I'll zoom in on here a little bit. But we did a pretty good job just from memory here. All right, so now we're going to go File, Save. We're going to save this to our folder. We'll call this down here Chicago Flag, City Flag. I'll hit Save. And if you wanted to save this as a JPEG or some sort of usable, friendly file format, I could go to File, and I go to Export, and I can export this as a JPEG, and that's going to be what you submit to Google Classroom. All right, so hopefully you were able to follow all of the steps. Vector graphics, it's a different beast than pixel-based graphics, but this is our first project. Welcome to Vector Graphics if this is your first time. Welcome back if you've used Adobe Illustrator in the past. We'll catch you next time.